Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. I'm laughing a little bit because every week here in the studio, before I start the radio show, I do a live segment in studio. It's called Behind the Mic, behind the microphone. We could call it Mike Behind the Mic, and sometimes I do. So we have a real nice conversation. It's kind of more of an informal thing. It's a live stream on my social media outlets. And it allows me to have an interaction back and forth with people. I also do a Wednesday night live every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock where we do the same thing. And I would encourage you, if you're on social media, if you're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and LinkedIn, those are the 4 places we put it out there, that you would join me. It's a lot of fun. But sometimes I get involved in conversations and I kind of forget, hey, there's a radio show to do too. So here I am back here in this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Welcome officially to summer. In fact, welcome, as you're listening to the radio show, to July. 4th of July weekend. I shake my head at how fast time is going by. The summer is just flying by. And we need to, again, make the most of it. I don't want it to get to be February or January or February and go, oh, you know what? We should have done that. No, do it now. This is the time. High gas prices, I get it. They're a pain. They cut into the budget. It's expensive to go places. But you know what? You can't replace memories. You got to make memories with your spouse, your friends, your family, your kids, your grandkids, your neighbors. Do these things. Go these places. Take advantage of this beautiful state that Michigan is during this beautiful time of year. Because it's not going to last forever. In fact, here's a downer for you. The days are going to start getting shorter now. Hey, thanks, Avery. I didn't need to be reminded of that. Yeah, the days are going to start getting shorter. Man, have we been on a temperature roller coaster, haven't we? One day it's like 95 and you can't breathe, and the next day it's beautiful and 70. It's caused some interesting surface temps on Saginaw Bay. They've really jumped up lately. Now, on Saginaw Bay where I fish, I don't, because ideally I'm fishing 10 feet of water or less. All I'm really concerned about is surface temp. I'm not worried about, the temperature down below. I'm not worried about the thermocline. I'm not worried about thermocline. I'm not worried about underwater currents. I don't have to deal with any of that stuff. Just the surface temp. And it jumped up about 8 degrees in a week here last week. I did find myself last time out in an interesting situation. I was fishing with my grandson, Trent, which was just wonderful. It was just me and Trent. And I love those types of one-on-one situations. I mean, I love taking out big groups of people and running a whole bunch of rods. I mean, 13, 14 rods. You're asking for trouble, but you're going to catch more fish. 2 guys in the boat, you're only running 6 rods, but you get a chance to talk. And I still say the best times, the best conversations I ever had with my dad when he was around were on Lake Michigan, salmon fishing. So there's something about being out on the water. You let your guard down. You relax a little bit. You're involved in an activity that you love. So anyway, I had a great fishing trip with Trent, and we got some fish. But I went through my beloved Skinny Water, and I just couldn't get it to go. It was some floating weeds that were causing me some grief. and it just didn't fire up like I wanted it to on the first pass. If you go through the first pass, you're going to know right away what's going to happen. And I had a report of a really good bite out deep. I don't like to fish deep. But since nothing was going where I was, there was very little wind. It was a good day to run out there, so we did. And we went out to the deepest water I have fished on Saginaw Bay in years. A whopping 27 feet. Now, you Lake Michigan people are laughing at me right now. 27 feet? We get nervous when we go in shallower than 30 feet, Avery. 27 feet? What are you talking about? To me, 27 feet might as well be the middle of Lake Superior. That's how deep it feels to me. I don't like fishing deep fish because I don't really know how to fish them. We did end up catching fish out there because there was just so many fish you couldn't catch them. A couple of basic techniques. I love when I get out into 15 feet of water or more and I see fish on the bottom, I love to take offshore tackle Magnum tadpoles with a spoon about 6 feet behind them. And I free spool that Magnum it's like fishing a bottom bouncer. Not that I've fished that many bottom bouncers, but I know the basic technique and how to do it. You free spool that tadpole to the bottom. You let it hit bottom. You put your thumb on it. Let the current take it back a little bit, or the motion of the boat, and free spool it again. What I want is that tadpole maybe ticking bottom or just off the bottom. And I'm telling you what, when there are fish laying on the bottom, that is a very, very effective technique. So we used that. That is my go-to deep water scraping fish off the bottom tactic because I don't run crawlers. If I ran bottom bounces and crawlers, I would have done that. But there were other fish that were deeper than I wanted to run my flicker shads or flicker minnows. I probably could have reached them, but I don't like letting out 100, 120. I don't like letting out 120, 130 feet of line because unless your baits are tuned exactly, you are asking for trouble. You're asking for tangles. So we did the 50-50 method. Let out 50 feet of line, put a 2-ounce offshore snap weight on it, and let out, some more line. So I ended up running, like 100 feet of line or so, but I could target the depth, and we were much less likely to get them tangled. And we caught fish that way as well. Kind of adding salt to the wound here, though. I told you I went out deep because I couldn't get my skinny water to go. Well, I talked to my buddy Lance Valentine of Teaching Fishing, who had a charter that day, and he says, hey, guess what? He says, that skinny water you couldn't get going, he says, we knocked the snot out of him in there. I'm like, thanks, Lance. That's just what I wanted to hear. Thanks, Lance. Appreciate that. I will tell you, though, I got a couple of trips coming up, and I will concentrate in that skinny water. I'm gonna work that over real hard. I really like fishing in there. Speaking of fish, have you heard that Asian carp have a new name? Asian carp, the ones that came in through how'd they get it? I don't even remember anymore, but they're down in the Mississippi River. We don't want them to get into the Great Lakes. They're the fish that when you run a boat through a school of them, they jump up, and they're just a pain. Well, they went from Asian carp. Last year, the National Wildlife Federation started calling them invasive carp. Now, I don't know if that was just so the name didn't offend people or what. I didn't really understand that one. Now, they're being called Copi, C-O-P-I, Copi. Asian carp are now being marketed as Copi. It's short for copious because there's a whole bunch of them out there. But what they want to do is create a market in restaurants for Copi, Asian carp. And they figured that it's a lot more appealing on a menu if you look at the menu and go, oh, it's a fillet of Copi instead of fillet of Asian carp. Now, I've actually had Asian carp here in this studio, actually the studio across the hall. Wild Game Chef Dave Minar surprised me one day and came in the studio with a plate of Asian carp. I didn't want to eat it, but I did. and it wasn't bad. It wouldn't be my first choice, but of course, when Dave cooks it up, it wasn't bad. So I hope they do create a market for it. And if that means calling them Kopi or whatever, well, that's all good. Hey, big day coming up here. On the 5th, here in Michigan, we will find out if we got our Michigan bear and or elk tags. Go to the DNR website, michigan.gov/DNR. You can check there. I will not get an elk tag. I'll tell you that right now. I won't get one. But I do think I'm going to get a bear tag for the 3rd season, Newberry District, and I'll be hunting with the Bear Whisperer, Johnny Bowler. Looking forward to that. What else? Oh, I celebrated a birthday here this last week. It's not a big birthday because I'm 1 year short of Medicare. When I hit that age, that'll be a big birthday. And I was thinking, what have I learned? I've learned that there's a lot more I don't know than what I do know. And I've learned that it's not in the catch, it's not in the kill, it's in the experience. It's in sharing that experience, promoting that experience, and passing that experience on to future generations. If I've learned anything in 64 years, it's been that. We'll take a break here at the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we're going to talk about underwater spearfishing for walleye. It's got some people mad, but I think it's cool. John Dirtka coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show on more than 30 stations, AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan, including WSJM in St. Joe, that's 94.9 FM. WILS in Lansing, 1320 AM. And let's go to Marquette, north of the bridge, WDMJ, 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Rapid River Knives. As always, I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket. In fact, people know this by now. The other day, I was talking to a guy. He said, yeah, that knife right there in your pocket. I can see it. Rapid River. I want one of those. Well, you should want one of those because I'm telling you what, they're a beautiful piece of work. They're a piece of art, but very functional, made to last a lifetime, handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's UP at the Rapid River showroom and factory. You can check them out online at rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us. Or if you're in the UP this summer, swing by their showroom on 2 just outside of Rapid River, pick out your knife, have it engraved, and you've got a beautiful, functional tool that you can hand down, pass down to the next generation. By the way, Kris Duerson of Rapid River will be on with me in the 3rd hour of this week, rapidriverknifeworks.us. Okay, I am fascinated with our topic here for the next couple of minutes, and fascinated with the guy who made it possible. John Dirtka is a guy who, I'm going to say almost single-handedly, if not by himself, single-handedly, pushed for the concept of underwater spearfishing to become legal here in Michigan, and he got it passed. And he's been posting some very, very cool video of his underwater fishing adventures. Recently, he started posting video of underwater walleye spearfishing, which really got my attention. So I wanted to bring him on the show to talk more about this. John, first of all, welcome back to the show. How have you been?
Great. Thanks for having me back, Mike. Appreciate it.
Well, listen, always a pleasure. Your videos are just, to me, as a guy who views the water from above, when I look at your video of what these fish look like as they relate to structure, as they relate to the bottom, as they relate to you as a person there, I find them absolutely fascinating.
It is. That's one of the big draws to spearfishing and getting under the water is getting to see the fish and interact with them while they're in their natural habitat.
This is basically the first summer that you guys have been out there and really more visible and legal. What's the reaction? What do say when you were on northern Saginaw Bay fishing up there in Tawas? What is the reaction to walleye anglers, traditional hook and line anglers, when they see you guys?
Mostly, we only encounter them mostly at the docks, usually when we're coming in or going out. And it's kind of a little bit of surprise. They're like, just like everybody else does, because it's new this year. They're like, "Oh, I didn't know you could do this." And then they're like, and then they're very fascinated. And they, ask questions. Usually, spend 5-6 minutes talking to them about it. But in the water, we trying to avoid all the high traffic boating areas. So I've not had any issues with boaters so far.
And remind us, how does this work? You can't use tanks for one thing, right? You can't use scuba tanks.
Correct. Yep, it's free diving only, which just means you just need a snorkel and mask. And then you can go from the shore. You need to be safe and to make boaters aware of your presence in the water. You need a diver down flag, and you need to stay within 100 feet of it. I keep it strapped to a float rope that I keep on my hip is about 50 feet away from me, so everybody knows that where I am. And then boaters are not to operate a combustion engine within 250 feet of that, unless they are part of the diving operation.
And then how deep of water can you fish then?
You got to be able to fully submerge yourself to be able to have a chance at harvesting that fish. It's not legal to shoot them from the surface when you're floating. So generally, I say 6 feet or deeper. I don't really find fish too much shallower than that unless you're trying to shoot carp. But anywhere from 6, 8, 10, 15, 20, 30 feet. 30
feet. And well, I'm not a diver. I don't pretend to know anything about it. But 30 feet, wouldn't it take you a little while to get down there? And, of course, that's cutting into the time that you can hold your breath, I would imagine.
Exactly, 100%. It takes about, 10 seconds to get down there. And then, like you said, you got to hold your breath and equalize your ears. And then once you get down there, that's when you're not fishing at that point. You're hunting, right? You're trying to keep whatever structure between you and the fish and try and, get as close as you can to that fish. So slow, methodical movements, not looking like you are trying to chase them or something like that. That'll get a negative reaction.
That's a very interesting description. You're hunting at that point.
Right. Correct. That's another part of the game. A lot of people don't understand. I think you just swim up to them and shoot them, and that's not at all what it's like.
Well, how close can you get? How close do you have to get with these spear guns? Can you shoot 20 yards, or is it 20 feet?
It's 15 feet or less is generally what I can comfortably and accurately shoot at.
Well, when you're down in a fish's environment, trying to get 15 feet from them, I don't know. It seems to me almost impossible, but I see your video, and you're very good at it. You're very successful, John.
Well, it's because I train and hold my breath real long, so when I get down there, I can lay motionless or very, very little movement and allow those fish to come back after. Usually when you dive down originally, they usually scatter. And once you're down there for a little while, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, or a minute, their curiosity kind of kicks in, and they're like, okay, well, it's not coming after me. It's not trying to attack me. I'm going to go check it out. And that's when they'll come in and get real close, and that's when you get those cool videos. Okay, so it takes you 10 seconds to get down there. You've got to lay there for a minute before they get used to you. I mean, how long are you underwater? And, again, you don't have tanks. Yeah, minute and a half generally, and I've been down for two plus minutes on a good dive. So this is something you've got to train for, John. Oh, yeah, swimming, running, practicing holding your breath for, extended periods of time. A lot of the guys I've been out with, I think, 4 or 5 people now that have got their first walleye, right? And this is probably their first or second year getting into spearfishing. And most of these guys aren't diving past 20 feet, and their breath holds are, 35, 40 seconds. Those are their best breath holds. So getting into the sport definitely takes some practice, and you start to understand the physical dynamics and how that affects your capability of getting fish. The good example is on Sunday, I went out with a new guy, very fit, very, well-rounded, but not very comfortable in the water. And we were up in Saginaw Bay, and I got my limit in 6 hours. It took me 6 hours to get 8 fish. he got 2 in that same time frame. So I think that is kind of a testament to my training and my ability to dive and helping me be successful.
Okay, your numbers actually, I think, are very significant, because one of the criticisms I've heard as I post your videos, and I do post them on my Facebook page, I share them, people say, well, you know, these guys they're gonna deplete the walleye fishery, which is a crock. Because if you're worried about depleting the walleye fishery, shut down the Detroit River in the springtime. That's what you should do, right? You guys, first of all, how many of you are there out there in Michigan?
So there's been a lot of interest. I would say on the Facebook group, we have reached 700 people now. So that's 700 people that are aware of our association, Michigan Spearfishing Association, and actively, you know, participate or whatever. So I'd say about 700 people in the group. Among the people who are actually doing this regularly, like let's just say twice a month, I would say there's probably less than 200 of us.
All right, so a couple hundred of you across the entire state. You, as the premier or most well-known underwater spear fisherman in Michigan, you took 8 fish in 6 hours. I don't think you're going to hurt the resource.
No, I don't think so. All the guys who were meeting at the dock, or when we met at the dock, they were like, oh, yeah, you know, we were limited out within 2 hours. You know, they had 4 people on the boat. So it's like the Saginaw, especially the Saginaw Bay, but Lake Huron and St. Clair all the way through Lake Erie is just such a robust walleye population that there's no concern about this as far as the harvest of walleye. It's more or less the dynamics of sharing the water with other fishermen.
And you guys, I feel like you are very much aware of that and very conscious of portraying yourselves in a positive light.
Absolutely. And that's my number one thing I tell everybody. Is just if you see somebody on a pier that's, you know, casting from the shore or whatever, you stay away from the areas that they have or they were there first. You know, you don't want to intrude on that because you can go anywhere. If they're fishing from land, they can, you know, they can only go to that certain point. And if they're on a boat and they're, you know, trolling over a school of fish and they're catching on them, the last thing you want to do is be that guy who jumps in on it. It's not like the Detroit River, you know, where you find a line, you drift down the line, and you try and catch as many fish out of there as you can. It's not like that, especially because I don't like diving in rivers anyways, but
sure,
just being on that flat water, if I see boats, I'm concerned for my safety. I'm concerned for their, you know, having a good experience out there with me. So I'm just going to go somewhere else.
There is one question I've seen that I do think is valid. You know, if we're doing a hook and line and a fish has got to be 13 inches or 15 or whatever, we can catch that fish, we can put it on a board, and if it's not big enough, we can throw it back. How do you guys make that determination underwater? Because once you let the spear go, if you hit him, it's a dead fish.
Right. 100%. I mean, the one thing you got to do is you got to look at your fish and you got to know what you're looking at. And then you got to know, you know, our number one thing is if you don't know, let it go. It's as simple as that. If you don't know, if it looks too big or it looks too small, just let it go. And another thing a lot of people don't understand is the smaller the target gets, the harder it is to hit anyway. So even if you know, a 13-inch walleye is very small, very thin.
Yeah.
So it's already creating a harder target to hit. So you got to get even closer to it. And by the time you're that close, you should be going through your head like, do I want to harvest this fish? Is it too small? If you don't know, let it go. And you see a lot of fish. So it's not like you're seeing one opportunity and, you know, you're going for it. The fish is very healthy and there's lots of fish. So I always tell people, if you don't know, let it go, and you're going to see more fish. And, you know, like I said, smaller targets, harder to hit them. So if you're like,
Gotcha.
I don't know, that's kind of where it's at.
John, listen, I got to take a quick break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, I want to finish the conversation. Charlie, open him back up again if you would. John, where do we find you online real quick?
Purely Michigan Spearfishing on Instagram and YouTube.
Purely Michigan Spearfishing. Thank you, John. Thank you, Charlie. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up our conversation with John Dirtka. Purely Michigan Spearfishing. It's a fascinating topic. I think these guys are... I'll never do it just because I don't know how, but I have a lot of respect for it. can hear, you can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS, and you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on, News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by MUCC's OTG program. Well, that's a lot of initials. MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs, and OTG is their on-the-ground program. That's a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website at mucc.org. That's mucc.org. If you want to sign up to become an MUCC member for the first time, use the promo code MIKE, all caps, M-I-K-E, and you can save 25%. While you are online, I would strongly encourage you to do a search on Purely Michigan Spearfishing. That is the online presence of John Dirtka, who is a hardcore, avid underwater spear fisherman, an advocate, and a promoter as well. John, this last video you posted, my understanding is it was from Tawas on that man-made underwater reef. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So what was that experience like?
It was cool, honestly. We heard about it. I didn't know where it was, but we found it on Navionics. But, there's a man-made reef down there, an artificial reef. I think the DNR put it out there. And it's just a lot of sand and, on the bottom, a little bit of weeds. But they pour rocks all along it, and the fish relate very heavily to it. And it produced for us. I think we got 4 fish off of it the first day, and then I think we got 3 or 4 the next day.
Well, so you're working for this. As you say, the guys out there trolling are catching, 20, 30 fish. So you're working for these fish. Yeah.
And I'll say this, too. These fish absolutely react to our presence once we start shooting fish. When you get one fish, those 2 or 3 fish that were with it, they leave. They don't usually come back real quick. They stay away. They educate themselves real quick. So it's definitely not like you're going to get into a school of fish and you're going to be able to just shoot them and load them and then you leave. You shoot them, they leave, and then you got to find new fish.
Well, I know, we've always been able to shoot carp and bowfin and things like that, but what other fish here in Michigan that we would think of as game fish are legal targets for you guys?
We have the walleye, the lake trout, and northern pike. And northern pike, Commissioner Carol Rose wanted to make sure that those fish were protected from, I guess they have a habitual tendency to linger in shallow water in the early spring or late spring and early summer. So she put an amendment on the order to make sure that northern pike will not be harvested until July 1st. So as of July 1st, we'll be able to harvest northern pike as well.
Do you see pike when you're down there?
I have not seen a pike this year.
Okay.
Not one. They're catching them all over Saginaw Bay. I haven't seen one.
Now, lake trout, have you been out after those things yet?
I have tried. I actually caught my first one this year with on hook and line trolling. But they inhabit deep and cold water, and I tell you what, I have not seen one. There was one reported harvested in April. Some crazy person went out in April and managed to get one. But other than that, I know of no lake trout that have been harvested with a spear gun.
And didn't you actually take the very first known walleye in Michigan underwater spearfishing? I
did not. I got it on video.
Oh.
My buddy Aaron, to my knowledge, he got one back somewhere in March, I believe. Or no, not March. I'm sorry, April. Late April, I think it was.
Okay.
Out of Lake Michigan.
Now, also, there are very strict rules and regulations around this, right? You've got to report these fish?
Yes. That's. Thank you for bringing that up. So as part of this order, this data collection phase of this order, we are required to get an underwater spearfishing license, which is only available online. So you go online to the DNR website, where you buy your licenses, you can go on there and you will be issued, it's for free, you issue that license. And with that license, you get a number. On that same page where you will buy that license, there is a tab for report a harvest. You click on that, you put in your underwater spearfishing license number, your date of birth, and it'll make sure all your info is correct. And then it's going to ask you, did you go for this month, this year, what month you went and what year you went. And then it'll ask you where you went, what fish you harvested, and how long and how many trips did you go. And you should do this every trip. This is what I like to tell people. Every trip you go, as soon as you get done, go online and fill out that report so it's all fresh in your memory so you're not screwing anything up. And you want to know how many hours you went, how many trips you made out to that area and stuff like that.
And so this is a way for the fisheries managers to keep track of this and see what's going on.
Yeah, because all charter fishermen have to do this as well. And so what they want to compare is effectiveness of underwater spearfishing compared to charter boats, because on any given day they can say, okay, we have X amount of charter boats, they're fishing, this many hours, and they're catching a fish, 3 fish every hour or something like that. And so if they can compare underwater spearfishing to that and say, here's the data, this is how we can better manage this method, and if we need our own set of rules and harvest limits, then we can absolutely do that.
Gotcha, John. Listen, congrats on getting this through. Congrats on promoting this sport. I'll look forward to seeing more of your videos, and I'd encourage people to find you online at Purely Michigan Spearfishing, Purely Michigan Spearfishing. Thanks, John. We'll talk again soon.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. Come back and wrap up this first hour with Ted Harpham of Michigan-based Darton Archery. There's some interesting things going on there, and I'm going to talk with Ted about that after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. Just a reminder, you can hear the show on something like 33 stations across the great state of Michigan, AM and FM stations. They include WIOS in Tawas, that's 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. In Traverse City, WTCM, 580 AM. And in Iron Mountain, WMIQ, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. What a great facility. I mean, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful location, very close to the fishing grounds, a beautiful boat launch, a full-service marine shop with very, very good technicians and mechanics, a great campsite, a great campground. Did I mention that? And wonderful people. I like to say it is Saginaw Bay Fishing Central for the west side of the bay. You can check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. I will be up there the 23rd of July for an Angler Quest tournament. If you own an Angler Quest, you can register for that online, by the way. The website again for Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com. While you are online, check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and then please head over to another website of a Michigan-based company, DartonArchery.com. DartonArchery.com. I've been seeing all kinds of video online from Darton about their target archers placing very well, in fact, winning many competitions across the country. I'm not a target archer. I don't know anything about it. So I called in my friend Ted Harpham of Darton Archery to join us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk more about that. Ted, welcome back, buddy. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Mike.
So how's life?
Oh,
busy?
That's a deep breath. I don't know if I can get it all out. I'm a pretty good talker.
But it's busy there at Darton, right?
Yes, sir. It's very, very busy. And, we've had just an exciting spring. And now, with a lot of the big tournaments are full swing. We've got, guys that are winning big tournaments. We got Jimmy Lutz. We got Jacob Sluzar just won in Metropolis, which was the Matthews Pro-Am Open that Darton won. We've got numbers of local guys that are shooting fantastic. So we're super happy with what's going on. The bows are performing extremely well. It's just busy.
I've never seen, that I can remember, an emphasis on target archery like I'm seeing these days. Is this a part of this new Darton and the new ownership and the new partnership?
Yeah, no, for sure, Mike. Black Eagle Arrows is one of the largest arrow manufacturers in the world. Has more podium stands than anybody, I believe, now in the history of archery with these big tournaments. So, we've got great shooters that are shooting with Black Eagle and shooting with our Conquest stabilizers, and now they're shooting with the other part of the family at Darton Archery and using our equipment. So it's been a great combination, and it's really launched us to that, taking one step on that ladder at a time is just now taking us right to the top.
So how do these target archers and target shooting competition archery, how does that equate to, or how does that help out bow hunters? Is there a correlation at all?
Well, Mike, that's a great question, and it's asked a lot. But almost after being now more involved in target archery, that from the heart, I'm a hunter. I don't even shoot target, here even at the shop anymore. Just out of my office, I like to hunt. That's what I do, and most of the guys, I would say probably upwards of 90% of the guys in the target archery market are also hunters. So the beauty of it is now we've got them shooting target and really putting the emphasis on our target bows, which we did not have that opportunity before, to now where these guys are target archers and hunters. So we get both ends of the spectrum instead of just going after the hunters and really making it like we were a hunting bow company. That's what we've always been known as. We're built to hunt. And now it's changed 100%.
Stupid question. Can a target bow be used for hunting and vice versa? Or if you're serious about it, do you need separate bows?
No, 100% you can use the same bow. We have bows that are designed. We have our Tempest E3D, which is one of our top target bows, our Vegas E3D. Both of those are designed to do both. Now, if you get into the Tempest ET, which is T stands for target, obviously the 3D stands for outdoor shooting and stuff. But we got guys using them depending on their draw links and what they have. You could use any of them. And we've changed our.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now we've changed our whole decoration department, so now it actually works so these guys can have that same bow still decorated as a partial target bow as well as used as a hunting bow. So we're doing all powder coating stuff now. We're doing color fusion now. It's Darton Archery has changed 150%.
Well, and I saw online a very, very cool red, white, and blue Darton bow. And I will be shooting as I head to White River, Ontario here for a bear hunt with Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters in the middle of August. I will be shooting my Darton Archery crossball.
Yeah, the Toxin 100 RD.
The Toxin 100 RD. I love that bow. All right, Ted, always a pleasure. I think, I have a soft spot in my heart for Darton Archery, and you're a good friend of mine, and I appreciate you joining us. DartonArchery.com, DartonArchery.com. We'll take a break here for the top of the hour. When we come back, well, let me look at my rundown. I think Dave Rose is going to join us. Dave Rose talking about fishing in northern Michigan, specifically the hex hatch. If you are a fly fisherman, those are two holy words. Hex hatch. What is it and why is it a big deal? Dave Rose talking about that and more after the break for the top of the hour right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, heard on 33 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. This is, first and foremost, a radio show. It is programmed, produced, recorded, syndicated, distributed as a radio show. which makes it somewhat unique in that there aren't that many syndicated outdoor radio shows at a statewide level across the country. There are a few, and there are some very, very good ones. But I am blessed to be able to do this for many years. I could not do it without you, so thank you so much for your support. The best way, in my opinion, to listen to Outdoor Magazine Radio is on your local AM or FM station. For many reasons, including the radio stations get the content before the podcast version of the show is uploaded. Yes, there is a podcast of the Outdoor Magazine Radio Show. Podcasting is an interesting concept. I love it. I think podcasting is a wonderful way for anybody to get content out. I would encourage you, if this is something you've talked about or thought about it, if you have a topic or a story you want to tell, podcasting is a wonderful way to get that out there. You can do it almost for nothing. You can do it using nothing more than your phone. It's at the simplest, most basic level, it is very easy to do. And because of that, everybody has a podcast, and I think that's wonderful. And there's a podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine Radio Show out there every week as well. You can hear it on my website, on the Facebook page, Amazon, Audible, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google Play, iHeart, yada, yada, yada. It's even on YouTube. Anywhere you get your podcasts from, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine Radio Show. I also do monthly podcasts for offshore tackle, Angler Quest boats, primal tree stands, and polar craft boats. In fact, when we're done recording this week's radio show, we will record this month's primal podcast as well. But regardless of where you're hearing my voice, when you're hearing my voice, again, a very big thank you. I do appreciate it. I also appreciate the fact that over the years, so many, many years, I've had a chance to meet and work with and get to know so many interesting and knowledgeable people. I always say I don't know much about much, but I know who to talk with and who to reach out to get information. And if we still had Rolodexes, and you won't even know what that is if you're a younger person, I have a very, very extensive Rolodex. I know who to reach out to when there's a topic. And I'm thinking right now of this holy phrase, the hex hatch. I say it with reverence. Even though I'm not a trout fisherman, I get the fact that it's a big deal. Dave Rose is a trout fisherman, and a salmon fisherman, and a walleye fisherman, and a pike fisherman, and a muskie fisherman, and a bass fisherman. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. David, welcome back.
Thank you very much. And yeah, you name it, I love to catch it. How's that?
Well, exactly. If it swims, it's a valid, viable target for Dave Rose.
It is. I had so much fun about 3 weeks ago. I caught a couple bullfin, and the males were in their spawning colors, and they are the brightest green fins in translucent chartreuse green bellies when they are in the spawning mode. And unbelievable, and what a fight, too.
Okay, we got to talk more about this. Was this a fish you were targeting, or was it a bonus catch?
I was going after the old whatever wants to hit fish. And I was on a lake, and I caught some smallmouth and some rock bass and chased a couple bluegills around, and all of a sudden I started seeing these bullfins. So I said, hey, I want to catch one of those again. So I did. And, I hit a jig, and I could tell they were up in the shallows getting ready to do their procreation thing. And like I said, and this fish is probably 5-6 pounds. They're quite long and slender. They got huge fins. Probably one of the hardest fighting fish out there. And they've got some. They don't have huge teeth, but they are razor teeth. So you got to be careful. You don't want to stick your finger in there. But really cool fish.
I got to be honest. I'm a little bit afraid of them. They creep me out.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's okay to be afraid of them. Probably the largest one I've ever seen is actually I had a client catch it, and it was probably as long as my truck's dashboard. Unbelievable. It was huge. No picture to prove. It's probably some state or world record. Who knows? But, it ate a spinnerbait, and I ended up just, I was going to cut the line and say, there you go. But somehow we got it out because they got not a bony mouth, but it is a bony mouth. We'll just put it that way. It's very, very strong. But, you definitely don't want. I'd almost rather get bit by a pike or a muskie than I would one of those both.
Well, and they, like you say, they are a fighter, and it brings up this whole topic of there are so many different species, so many different types of fish in Michigan that get completely overlooked.
Oh yeah, from the different species of carp to suckers to you name it, what they call, rough fish, fish that you might not, rather than table fare, they are just catching quarry and stuff like that. And I have a blast catching them.
And I'm also fascinated by the concept of catfishing. I used to think catfishing was just I will admit, I had a bias against catfish. I used to think of them as kind of a junk fish and as a southern fish. But there's a tremendous and viable and very good catfish resource here in Michigan, and more people are taking advantage of it.
And they should. Catfish are excellent eating. Up here in the northwest corner, the lower, there's a few different kinds, but we mainly have the channel catfish. And they get up to about 10 pounds or so. And they fight good and they taste good. You flay them out, chunk them up, put a little cornmeal batter on there, and like some Cajun whatever, and woo, son, we'll just put it that way. They're good.
And I see these big flatheads. Those things are huge.
Oh yeah, those things will get into the tens of pounds. 50-pounder, 40-pounder, or 30-pounder, or whatever, and they're huge. Now I don't target them as much again because we don't tend to have them as readily up here in this corner, but and in fact, the Department of Natural Resources, in a couple of reservoirs up here along the Manistee River, and that they actually stocked channel catfish.
Oh, no kidding.
And I've got a buddy, and we've gone out and just used a chunk of, again, fishing for a rough fish. I'll keep a couple suckers every year, chunk them up, use them for catfish bait. They just love them, and so we target them, and it's nothing to go out and maybe get 4 or 5 of those things in an evening.
So when people book you for a trip, what are they looking for? A multi-species? Hey, I want to get whatever, or do they come to you and say, I want to target a specific type of fish? Dave Rose, help me find it.
The majority want to go walleye fishing or bass fishing or pike. So they want a different species. A lot of people, though, let's say they live up on South Lake Leona, and they've lived there for 10 years, and it's all they can do to catch a fish. I go out there and show them what I like to do on the lake that they live on. And some people are just on vacation, and they just want to, hey, let's go fishing. And those are actually my favorite because there's no expectations or whatever like that. These are people that might not get to fish only, maybe not even once a year, that kind of thing. Yeah. And they haven't caught a fish in years, and they're just having a blast being out in the boat and in a beautiful scene and catching whatever hits fish.
And how exciting that must be for you to take, these people out and show them this resource and catch them some fish. And there's no downside to that at all, because as you say, there's no pressure. They're not looking for big fish. They don't even care what kind it is.
Yeah, they're just out to have a good time, husband and wife or whatever, brother, sister, brothers or aunts, uncles, whatever's, and yeah, they just want to go out and just, wow, they're in northern Michigan, and they might not live in an area that's beautiful as what any of the state of Michigan is, and they're just happy to be here.
I do like the concept, though, that you were talking about is, taking people out on their home body of water and showing them maybe how to catch fish there or a different way to catch fish there. That's got to be an eye-opener for some people.
It is. I had a gentleman years ago, he'd lived on the lake, wanted to catch walleye, never caught a keeper walleye in his life. And it was just one of those days where the planets were aligned just right. And, man, did we nail the walleye, and we got big walleye, and he was beside himself going, he didn't even know there was, we were catching like 8-9 pound walleye, out of this lake. And, there's, like I said, the planets were aligned and everything was just right. But, it's also, it can be frustrating to guide because some people really want to catch fish. And, there's some days, the old "you should have been here yesterday" kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And there's been days I go out and I think, man, we're not going to catch diddly-do today. Next thing you know, we caught more fish than ever. Or some days you say, wow, it should really be a good bite today. And then I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs, telling jokes, just trying to keep them occupied.
Well, and it does take a certain type of person to be a guide. I know when I take people out on my charity charters that I feel a certain pressure to catch them fish, and I don't always enjoy that pressure. So those of you who do that and are good at it, like you, Dave Rose, I do certainly respect. We're talking with Dave Rose, outdoor writer and fishing guide in northern Michigan, the beautiful northwest corner of the Lower Peninsula. His website, wildfishing.com. That's wildfishing.com. Got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll get back to the topic at hand here, and that is the hex hatch. I say that with reverence. I don't know why, but I know it's a big deal. Dave will explain after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Just when I thought they couldn't get any better, the folks at Michigan-based Apex Marine have taken their lineup of Angler Quest boats to the next level. Now, the big water fishing machines are wider, a full 8.5 feet. The tubes are bigger for more stability and safety, and the overall design is the best yet. There's a new rail system that's stronger and more functional. The bimini is redesigned for more stability. The transom has been reconfigured with a cantilevered platform to make landing those big fish easier. Angler Quest furniture package is more comfortable and stylish, and there's even more. The 2022 lineup of Angler Quest boats is the best yet, and they're the hottest fishing pontoons on the water. For more details and to find a dealer near you, go to anglerquestpontoons.com. That's anglerquestpontoons.com. And be sure to check them out on social media. Angler Quest Pontoons, built with purpose. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us on the other side of the state in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Michigan-based Boning Archery. Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since, 1946, I think. The first product was Ferrule-Tite to glue broadheads to, at the time, or wooden shafts, later aluminum shafts. But these days, Boning continues to come up with new products, new processes, new manufacturing processes. How a company can be a leader in an industry for 3/4 of a century is very impressive. And it comes down to their people, their philosophy, their dedication, and the fact that they're archers. They're hardcore archers. If you are a target archer or a bow hunter, there's a very good chance you use Boning products. I do. Check them out online at boning.com, BOHNING, boning.com, a great Michigan-based company. We're talking with a great Michigan-based outdoor writer and fishing guide now. His name is Dave Rose. And Dave, man, you are smack dab in the middle of one of the most beautiful parts of our state, that northwest corner of the lower, and you're surrounded by water everywhere.
I am. I can catch nearly every species of fish that swims in the Midwest within 13 minutes of my doorstep. So
13 minutes.
Very spoiled. I got it down to a time.
So what is? Listen. I got a buddy. I said, "Hey, Tony, you want to go walleye fishing later this week?" And he says, "Well," he said, "we're waiting to see about the hex hatch." And I'm thinking, hex hatch? What could be so big a deal that you can't go walleye fishing? Tell me about the hex hatch.
Well, it depends on what type of angler you are. There's a love-hate relationship. We'll just put it that way. If you love to, chase big brown trout after dark and all that kind of stuff, well, man, that hex hatch, and they call it the hex, it's the giant Michigan mayfly, and the scientific name is Hexagenia labata, and that's where they get the word hex, from hexagenia. And it is the largest mayfly in the world, really. And there's lots of different species of mayflies, before the giant ones come out. Some of them are in the lakes, and of course on the rivers we'll see what they call a brown drake, the smaller version of different types of mayflies. And there's several different mayfly species out there. So what happens is, if you're a trout lover, these big browns, they kind of let their guard down a little bit because there's all these giant bugs that have done their procreation thing, are falling into the river, and it's the big buffet right there with just one item on it, the hex. And but what can happen on the inland lakes, like you said, walleye fishing, this, that, and everything else, we see one type of mayfly hatch, and then the brown drakes kind of start to hatch, and that's a lot of feed for a lot of fish. Now, early on in the hatches on inland lakes, I like it. I actually am kind of like a saltwater fisherman. I'll be cruising around on a lake, and if I see a flock of seagulls diving in the water, that means the brown drakes or whatever are hatching right there. I'll buzz right over to it and start fishing that area, and those fish will be feeding. But what happens, you get a month of this going on, and these fish are just stuffed. And there's two things that happen. That's right when the environment's changing. We're starting to see thermoclines, this and that, and everything else. Water's warming up. These fish have just fed voraciously for a month. So the next couple weeks after the hex hatch, the big ones, the mayflies are pretty much done, but the fish are full, and they can be very difficult to catch.
Sometimes I get you on the show just to hear you say Hexagenia limbata.
Yeah.
So you mentioned big browns after dark. I mean, that's really the sweet spot for this hex hatch, isn't it?
Yeah, that's when the majority, of the hatching coming up. So there's several different stages. When you go to the store, you're going to go perch fishing, and you buy wigglers, those little squiggly things. That's actually the nymph of the mayfly. That is the nymph of the hex. So what happens is, these wigglers, these nymphs have been living down in the mud. All of a sudden, it's time. They waggle their way to the surface. Boom, they get wings. And so that's, one of the cycles and that's usually happening, once the sun goes down. So there's one, and then these, bugs go up into the trees. They actually molt again. Then they do their procreation thing, and they die, and they fall. They call them spinners. Boof, back down onto the water. And again, this all happens at night. The mayfly, that first stage, when they become a wiggler into that first stage of the hex, they're one of the few insects in the world without a mouth, so they cannot take in any kind of moisture. So the trees may be filled with these mayflies, but they're not going to come out in the daylight because, well, they're going to dry up and die. So that's why a lot of this stuff happens after dark.
I hear stories of these big browns. You can hear them slurping on the surface after these things. That must be quite an experience.
It is. I've got to experience it quite a bit, and literally it sounds like a slurp. You can hear it. They're not really jumping after these things because the bigger the fish, all they got to do is get their nose up out of the water, and they can flare their gills, suck in that water, and eat the bug. So yeah, sometimes the smaller the splash, the bigger the fish after dark. Now, a lot of people are getting, they're getting in tune with this. And I just happened to bump into a fishing guide buddy friend who specializes in that hex hatch and all that stuff. Man, he says there's a lot of people on the river these days. He went down on one of the rivers here in his drift boat. Took him a long time to find a spot where he could anchor up and, do his hex thing. So a lot of people are in the water right now. So it's very popular. So trout can be caught in the daytime too this time of year. So that you didn't hear that from me, but
nope.
Maybe try some hex fishing in the daytime. You'd be surprised.
Well, and I think if I remember right, you were telling a story one time when I had you on about really big trout coming out of really small creeks, basically.
Oh yeah. I've caught, 18 inches is a pretty nice brown trout, and I've caught, 18, 20-inch browns out of streams so small, I swear if the fish turned sideways, it'd get stuck. The creek is literally only 15 inches wide, but there's a 18-inch brown trout under the bank right there.
So what made you even stop and fish that water?
I fish everything.
Yeah.
I have found trout in some places where you would never think there's trout. But it's because I took the time to try it. And I just didn't try it once because, you might have a bad day or whatever, or you got to learn it a little better. And yeah, I mean, if it looks watery, I'll try something. We'll see what's in there,
Well, and up there where you are, these little tributaries that run into these rivers, I got to believe you can just cruise the 2 tracks and country roads and find culverts and access all over the place.
Yeah. I was pretty spoiled. I had my hip replaced here, 8-9 years ago, something like that. And it was bad. I mean, I couldn't even get in my boat. I was whacking my back out of place. And a lot of these little culverts are what saved my sanity. I've got spots where I could literally, if I wanted to, I never did this, but I could pull the truck right up to the culvert. I wouldn't even have to get out of the truck if I wanted to. I could dabble the rod over the side and have a good chance of catching a brookie or a brown.
So when you target this hex hatch, does it have to be with flies floating on the surface, or can you throw spinners at them, or what? Yeah,
well, you'll hear the term spinner when they're talking about the hex hatch and stuff like that, because that's what they call the bug after it procreates and it flobbles down, and they call them spinners, spent spinners. But so, you can, in the daytime or whatever, you try a body bait like a Rapala or Bomber or whatever. You can use inline spinners like Meps or Rooster Tails or Blue Fox or whatever. But you might not catch those biggest ones because they're really starting, they got brains smaller than the size of your pinky fingernail. There's no calculus or geometry or anything going on in their brains. And they're just on instinct. And so when they start targeting a specific bug, a lot of times that's pretty much all they're going to zone in on is that bug.
So what is, and I realize what you're saying, okay, a spinner's not going to be very effective sometimes. But it gets me thinking, what is the right way to fish a spinner, say, in a river? How do you cast it? How do you retrieve it?
Well, I've learned from some of the best, and basically, if I'm in a river, I cast slightly upstream, maybe at a 45 or less angle, and work that spinner down towards me, down current, just fast enough to get that blade spinning. And that's really about it. Now, the problem is, a lot of these trout live right up tight to the banks. So you got to be pretty good at casting and literally landing that spinner less than a foot away from the bank. And, of course, that means half the time, or not half the time, but a bunch of times you're going to cast up onto the bank, and you got a good chance of losing your lure or in an overhanging tree or something like that. So but you got to be a real good aim. We'll just put it that way.
So you want to keep enough speed on the bait, well, just enough to keep the blade wobbling a little bit.
Yep. It's spinning. Yep.
So does that mean, like, if you cast one downstream and then retrieve it back up, I mean, that's not an effective technique, is it? That wouldn't look real natural, I would imagine.
I'm sure there's a chance you could catch a fish doing that. You're greatly increasing your odds if you cast slightly upstream and bringing it down. Again, if you're casting downstream and coming up, that spinner is coming up behind the fish. The fish may not even realize it.
Good point. David, where do we read your musings and writings these days?
Well, lately I've had a few public publications like Field and Stream and Outdoor Life on their websites, talking about all sorts of different stuff. And, of course, all sorts of different Michigan magazines, from the Michigan Outdoor News, with Michigan Woods and Waters, all sorts of stuff like that. And once in a while, in Fisherman, just all sorts of places.
Well, I will be sure to look for that. Always a pleasure to talk with you, my friend. Get out there and have some fun, and you and I will talk again soon.
You got it. I appreciate it.
Dave Rose, outdoor writer, fishing guide, interesting guy, and all-around good guy. His website, wildfishing.com. That's wildfishing.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, Nick Green of MUCC checks in, and I believe they just got done with their annual convention. I want to talk with Nick about what topics were brought up, what resolutions were adopted, and what that means for the future of that organization. And then we'll wrap up the second hour with this week's Ask Avery segment, talking about getting a permit to hunt from a standing vehicle. What is that all about? How do you do it, and why? That's coming up in Hour 2 of Outdoor Magazine. More than 30 AM and FM stations across the great state of Michigan. That's where you can hear the Outdoor Magazine radio show. They include Big Country Gold in Sheboygan, WCBY, AM and FM, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. In Flint, Sports Extra, 1330 WTRX. And in Houghton Lake, 92.1 The Twister, WTWS. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Versa Skins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Michigan-based, family-owned Versa Skins. A great company, a great concept, a great product. Paul Perrone, the man behind the concept, said, why would you spend all this money to buy different hunting suits in different patterns? Why not buy one good quality suit and then snap on and zip on an outer shell with different camo patterns? It's a great idea, and it works out very well. Check them out online at versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. While you're online, of course, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And head on over to MUCC.org. That's the website of the Michigan United Conservation Clubs, a group of which I am a very proud member. Nick Green is their Chief Information Officer, and he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Nick, welcome back. You've had a pretty busy week, I understand.
I have, yeah. We're just coming off convention last weekend, so it's been a busy week.
Any news, any word, anything unexpected come out of the convention?
I wouldn't say unexpected, but we did have two resolutions that will probably be in front of folks' kind of news feeds here shortly, and that is one that kind of reaffirms the organization's commitment to Proposal G. So we have seen with this administration and under this director an attempt to segment some authorities at the Natural Resources Commission and decide whether it is the director or the NRC that actually has the authority over certain things that we just always kind of assumed that they both signed the orders, and it was everyone's kind of assumption that those were the authorities. So that's going to be a big deal. It's something we're going to talk about more, and hopefully we'll be able to help explain to folks why it matters. And at the end of the day, MUCC feels that a 7-member bipartisan body is a better conduit for making natural resources decisions than one appointed person. So that's a big one that's going to be coming down the pipe, and we'll be talking about more. We'll have resolution language and releases out. And then our second resolution that was probably the most debated was our Line 5 resolution. And this was from UPR, our past president, George Lindquist. He proposed that we support the Enbridge Line 5 tunnel as the best current available alternative to the line. And that passed our membership. It did have quite a debate over an amendment that was brought forward by the National Wildlife Federation that failed, and it passed almost as introduced in our membership.
Why? Help me understand why the National Wildlife Federation would have a say at your MUCC convention.
So the National Wildlife Federation we are the state affiliate of them. Just like we go to their national convention, we offer resolutions that we want to see passed. They have that same right. They join as a member of our organization, and they can go to our convention just like you can and have, just like individual members. So whether it's National Wildlife Federation or George Lindquist, our former UPR past president, it's always an interesting dichotomy up there at the for and against Mike's.
Gotcha. Let me go back to the previous topic about the NRC. You were saying that, well, isn't the NRC actually a group of 7 appointees itself?
It is. It is a group of 7 appointees, but they are required to be bipartisan at the very minimum. So, for example, if a D comes off, a Democrat comes off, or a better example now would be because Governor Whitmer's a Democrat. If a Republican comes off, she likely cannot appoint a Democrat to that seat. It would have to be another Republican or an I to keep the balance and independent.
Gotcha.
So yes, it is appointed, but so is the DNR director, and we feel that 7 people trying to think and work through an issue in public and going through the NRC public transparency process is a better way to do things.
Are we losing sight of the original intent of Proposal G of sound scientific wildlife management?
That's a very broad, big conversation. I think we're talking more and more about social aspects, and I think we all have a due diligence we have to perform here and think about conservation as hunters and anglers. It's just a broad coalition and group and talk about it. I don't want to say yes or no because that's a tough question to answer.
No, I got you, and I just personally I'm bothered with it a little bit when I hear again you talk about social science. When I voted for Proposal G, I didn't even take social science into account as part of sound scientific wildlife management. So that's a discussion that you and I will continue to have over the future. Nick, appreciate you checking in, and listen, enjoy a little bit of downtime now after the convention. Maybe you can get after some trout, some hex hatch, maybe.
I'm hex fishing right now, going out tonight. So thanks so much.
Good luck. Nick Green of MUCC, MUCC.org. Use the promo code Mike, all caps, and you can save 25% if you are a first-time person to sign up for MUCC. Yeah, the topic of sound scientific wildlife management. We didn't even think about social impact back then, but it's come. The first time I heard a biologist say, well, we have to take the social impact into account, I went, whoa. Yeah. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap up the second hour with this week's Ask Avery segment about getting a permit to hunt from a standing vehicle. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Holland, Michigan, that is. Although you can hear the podcast version in the country of Holland. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by my friends from Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The Ask Avery segment is your opportunity to get involved in the content, the programming, the topics of the show. It can be something you want me to address directly or something you want me to pass along to the folks at MUCC or DNR or National Wildlife Federation or wherever I might be able to get a contact or a response that you're having a hard time with. The best way to get these questions to me is to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. I've had people submit them using all the different social media messaging platforms, but to be honest with you, that gets to be very confusing and things get lost. So mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Now, having said that, this week's question did not come in through that avenue. This week's question comes from Dave Austin, and it was actually posted during last week's Wednesday Night Live. Now, again, Wednesday Night Live is an online show I do each week, Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. It airs or it streams on my Facebook page, my YouTube channel, my Twitter feed, and LinkedIn as well. We have not found a way to easily put it on Instagram in addition to that, although I'm still playing around with it. So Dave asked a question during Wednesday Night Live. He says, does anyone out there have a hunting from a standing vehicle permit? If so, how long did it take to find out? I sent mine in, his application in March, and I still haven't heard anything yet, even after 3 phone calls to the DNR. I will tell you that I've since talked with Dave, and this situation has been resolved. He's good to go. But he brings up some interesting topics, some interesting questions. As you probably know, it is very much illegal to hunt from a vehicle. And that is designed to address the road hunting problem. They don't want people driving down the road and shooting deer or turkeys or whatever out of their vehicles. So you can't hunt from a vehicle. You can't, whether you're driving down the road or standing, you can't lean across the hood of a vehicle or the tailgate of a vehicle to shoot. In fact, it's even illegal to lean your gun against a stopped vehicle, which I think is ridiculous. The process for getting a hunting from a standing vehicle permit is the application is online, michigan.gov/DNR. You click on the accessibility hunting link and you scroll to permit to hunt from a standing vehicle. You select the application for the permit and you fill it out. The form must be completed by both the applicant and a licensed physician and submitted to the DNR licensing and reservations. If it's approved, it's valid for 5 years, but then it has to be renewed. Now, what types of things? A disability. If you can't get out and walk, whether it's arthritis or whatever it might be, something that would prohibit you from walking out to your hunting spot, this is something you might want to consider. You've got to get a letter from your doctor saying that this is indeed the case. And also, Ed Golder from the DNR tells me that the usual processing time for this is 30 days. Now, Dave, March, April, May, June, he was dealing with it for 3 months. In fact, he's convinced that after he posted this on Wednesday Night Live and it got some attention, it actually sped up the process. I actually don't believe that to be the case. So if you are in a situation like this, don't let the fact that you don't have the mobility you had in the past keep you out of the woods. You can still hunt. Now, a motor vehicle doesn't have to be a truck, doesn't have to be a car. It can be a side-by-side. Side-by-sides are very popular. You could have a permit to hunt from a standing vehicle, which would be a side-by-side. So the opportunity is out there. The avenues are out there to keep you out there in the outdoors. Again, michigan.gov/DNR. That is the same website that we will use on the 5th to check our deer and elk tags as well. Big thank you to Dave Austin for asking that question. By the way, Dave is the father of Sam Austin. Sam works in the archery department at Jay's Sporting Goods in Clare, and Sam has worked on my bows in the past. A very, very good outdoor-oriented family. And a big thanks, as always, to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. The folks at Security Credit Union love to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. The website, securitycu.org, securitycu.org. Again, if you have a question for the Ask Avery segment, send me an email to mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. In fact, any topic, question, anything you want to get to me, that is the best way, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. In fact, I actually had a guy email me last week. He said, "Hey, big guy," which I knew right away. He'd listened to the show. He was referencing things I talked about, and he even mentioned he was driving by the station and he saw a crowd out there cheering Charlie Rood on. That's a little inside baseball, but if you get it, you get it. Hour 3 coming up.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, Michigan's biggest syndicated outdoor radio show. And I have, well, number one, I have God to thank for that, but I have you to thank for it as well, because if you weren't listening to the show, if you weren't following me on social media, if you weren't listening to the podcast version of the show, none of this would be possible. I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I really do enjoy it. People say, wait, Avery, when are you going to retire? Well, in fact, I just had a birthday last week. I'm 64, and I'm not going to retire anytime soon. As long as I can still make it here into the studio and string a few words together and make some kind of sense, I have no plans to retire because I absolutely love what it is that I do. And what I do is talk about the outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoors here in the great state of Michigan. I talk about hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and wildlife issues and conservation issues and wild game cooking. Chef Dave Minar is going to wrap up the show here in a few minutes. But I also like to talk about Michigan companies. And we are blessed here in our state to have so many Michigan-based, outstanding outdoor-related companies, hunting, fishing, whatever. And I'm thinking right now about Rapid River Knives. As I said earlier in the show, I have a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now, as I always do. I first started working with Kris Duerson at Rapid River, well, a couple of years ago now. And everyone that I have sent to the shop or turned on to Rapid River says, Avery, we appreciate that. They are a top quality product and great people. So, Kris Duerson, welcome back to the show. And it sounds to me like you've got a lot to be proud of there, my friend.
Great, Steve. It's good to talk to you.
Always a pleasure.
Happy belated birthday.
Well, thank you, Kris. I appreciate that. I'm getting to be an old guy, but fortunately, I feel about 15 years younger than what I am chronologically. So at least I'm moving the right direction. Hey, I got to read something to you. Kris.
Yeah.
This comes in from a guy named Jim Hassel, and I talk with him on Facebook once in a while. He said, Mike, and he's got a picture of him and I think maybe his son standing in front of your shop there, the Rapid River showroom. He says, Mike, I made it to Rapid River Knifeworks this trip. My family took me there to buy one for my birthday. I got that one plus two more, and then my son bought one. What a great place and wonderful people. It was an amazing experience. I hear that all the time, Kris. That's got to make you feel great.
Yeah, that's so important. We've spoke about that before. It's our factory showroom is more than just a place to go and buy knives. I want it to be an experience, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch people walk through the door for the first time and kind of just stop and wow, there's a place like this in the UP. I mean, they're taken back, and it's fun to engage with those people and give them the tour of the store and we spend time with everybody. And it's like you said, you really enjoy your radio show. I really enjoy engaging with the people and the customers, and it's a lot of fun.
Kris, how did you get to this point? I mean, what was your journey like in knife making? Did you grow up doing this type of thing?
I grew up, actually. I worked at Marble Arms when they still made knives in Gladstone in the late 90s. And when they took their production to overseas, essentially, I knew there'd be a demand for a high-quality hunting knife, a handmade hunting knife. It would still be there. So I started it in my garage, and with one buffer and one grinder, and by myself. So today we've got, there's 23 people that work with us now. We have a great team, and so it's been a long time. This is actually the 20th anniversary of Rapid River Knifeworks. We're working on a series of some special anniversary knives that we'll be releasing pretty soon. So.
Congratulations! That's wonderful. And all of your knives, Kris, are they all handmade there in the shop outside Rapid River?
Yeah, all of our big knives, percent of everything we do on those knives, we do right in our store. Our pocket knives, a few pieces of those knives have to be precision machined, and we don't have the equipment. So I have a couple small, the moving parts for our folders made in Gladstone. But otherwise, 100% everything is done right in our shop, and you can stand there and watch it happen through the picture windows.
So this folder, like I have in my pocket right now, is that your most popular model?
Yeah. You have the one of the Uper models, and we sell those 10 to 1 over everything else. Yeah.
What is it about that knife? Is it? I'll rephrase the segment. I'll rephrase it. In my case, it's the versatility. Yes, it's the size. I can keep it in my pocket. And when I hand this to somebody, Kris, the first thing they say is, "Man, it's solid. It's got some weight to it." I like that.
Absolutely. Everything is built really solid. It's built. I mean, we warranty everything for life, so we don't want to get them back. So we build them right the first time. But it's the size. It's the fact that it locks open, which is a huge safety feature. Pocket knives that can close on your hand while you use it, so we don't tend to not make many. But yeah, it's definitely the size and the versatility of that knife. You can use it to cut baler twine, and you can use it to field dress an elk if you want. It's just the perfect size.
You say this thing is guaranteed for life. What if I did something stupid like I almost did the other day and use it for a purpose that I shouldn't, and say I break the tip off? You're not going to warranty that. That's user error on my part.
Well, we actually do. If the people come in with a broken tip on their knife, are honest with us and tell us what they did, we'll do everything we can to regrind the blade, and we'll do it right on the spot. And it happens a lot. It happens a lot, but like I said, we have the ability. We do it right in house, and it's typically a 5-minute job. If you take the tip off your knife, we just put it back on, and you're going to leave happy. If I tell you to get lost and you're out of luck, that doesn't get you anywhere, and that doesn't keep you in business for 20 years. So you just, as long as people are honest with us and tell us, we know what they did. We can see that, if the end of the knife is bent, they used it as a screwdriver or a pry bar or something that they shouldn't have. So if they're honest, we just fix it.
You mentioned screwdriver and pry bar. How do you know? You've been watching me, my friend? Did you figure that out?
Everybody does it.
Yeah. Well,
everybody does it.
And the knife is tough enough.
I'm guilty of doing it.
Well, see, okay, now I don't feel so bad. So listen, what is the secret to putting a good edge on a knife? Is it the steel, or is it the process of sharpening itself?
It's actually both. If you don't with good quality steel that's put some carbon in it, you'll never have a good edge on a knife, or an edge that won't last. And then maintaining the edge as you use it. I always recommend to strop a knife on a piece of leather, even some denim, as you're using it, before you have to take it to a whetstone or regrinding it, because all you're doing is breaking off that little burr on the edge of your knife. And you can get a lot more edge life out of it by doing that, and you don't actually have to have it reground for a long time. So it's maintenance.
I took your advice. Last time you were on, you told me about that. And I thought, it is not going to make that big of a difference. I took your advice, and I did start stropping it on an old belt, and I was amazed. Now, I will admit, I haven't been doing it lately, and I've kind of lost the edge. But if you do that, Kris, you are absolutely right. The edge you can maintain on this thing just from a piece of leather is amazing.
It is amazing. And the concept is nothing new. Barbers, that's the only way they sharpen their straight razors. The barbers still use them. I've said in the past that I think if you're sitting in a barber chair and you got out a whetstone and started grinding on a straight razor, you'd fly out of that chair faster than you got in it.
Yeah.
And they'll strop them. They'll use the same straight razor for months and months and months, and they're just maintaining their edge and breaking the burr off. And it's the same concept with any type of knife, whether it's a kitchen knife, a pocket knife, or a hunting knife. that you maintain the edge, and then you're not finding yourself grinding away at the steel.
Well, you talk about these different type of knives. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show, but when we come back, we'll finish our conversation with Kris Duerson of Rapid River about the different type of knives they make. They make hatchets, they make skinning knives, they make kitchen knives. I'm telling you, I'm a real fan of Kris and his company and the products they made. I bought several of them. I bought them for gifts for Christmas. And I got a buddy who's going to get one here too. I'm going to talk to Kris about ordering one for him because they're just they're a handmade piece of art that'll last you forever, and you can pass them down to the next generation. There aren't many things in life you can say that about, but Rapid River is one of them. RapidRiverKnifeworks.us, RapidRiverKnifeworks.us. More with Kris after the break. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ. That's 97.7 FM. You can hear us in Sandusky on the Thumb, WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And let's go down the southeast side of the state. Let's go over to Port Huron, WPHM, 1380 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by a company you just heard a spot for, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles. I picked up 350 Legend that I ordered from Brenton here a couple of weeks ago. I have not had a chance to shoot it yet. Right now, my spare time is involved in fishing. When I've got some time, I'm fishing. But that's going to start to slow down here real soon. I'm going to get that 350 Legend on the range. And it's my plan to use it for my Michigan bear hunt with Johnny Bowler hunting the third season in the Newberry Bear Management Unit over by Seney. I am very, very impressed with this company. Michigan-made, family-owned, high-quality, very accurate AR-style hunting rifles. They call them modern sporting rifles, but I think a better term is just modern rifles. I would encourage you to check them out online at BrentonUSA.com, BrentonUSA.com. And if you use the promo code Avery, you can get $100 off on any Brenton USA hunting rifle, from the 450 Legend right on down to their smaller varmint calibers. BrentonUSA.com, that's BrentonUSA.com. You know by now I love to work with family-owned Michigan-based companies, including Rapid River Knives. RapidRiverKnifeworks.us is the website. We're talking with Kris Duerson, who is the guy behind Rapid River. Kris, have you ever taken the time to figure out how many different SKUs, how many different products you're putting out these days?
That's the deal. So we have 37 different models currently, and in those 37 different models, you can do countless numbers of handles and handle designs and handle materials. So SKU-wise, it's in the tens of thousands.
Wow.
Yeah, very, which is somewhat difficult to keep track of, but we managed to handle it.
How do we know?
Your knife is mammoth ivory. That's one SKU. Mammoth ivory with wood, that's another SKU. So there's just thousands.
I know. I take this knife out and I look at it sometimes and I just think, what a beautiful piece of art. And then you're telling me it's mammoth. It's like, well, come on. I don't even know how that can be, but you talk about a special piece of gear that I carry with me all the time. This knife exemplifies that perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. And said we build them for life, and as gifts, you talked about your buddy getting a gift. People need to be aware that we do free laser engraving. We'll do it right on the spot. We'll do names, dates, company logos, anything you want. Anything you want to personalize that knife, or to hand it down to your children. Or my favorite thing to do is watch a dad buy his son his first hunting knife. That's pretty special.
It really is. And you talk about these different types of knives, Kris. How do we know what type of knife? Is there one knife that is best for everything, or do we need to have different knives for different purposes?
We do make some that you can use for essentially everything. It's not ideal. Fillet knives and hunting knives are two totally different animals. So we do make a skin dress fillet knife that you can use as for a hunting knife and for a fillet knife and a camp knife. So we do make some knives that kind of touch all the categories. But generally, if you're looking for a hunting knife for big game, you want something a little more game specific than just something generic. Yeah.
Don't you think, too, that sometimes people tend to buy a knife that is actually bigger than what they need? I mean, you don't need a 6-inch blade to gut a Michigan whitetail.
No, yeah, we don't make that big.
Well, I know, but that's just an example,
Oh, people come in all the time, Mike, looking for a 6 to an 8-inch blade for a whitetail knife. It's all the time, and 3.5, 4 inches is more than enough. You typically only use the last 3/4 of an inch of your blade on anything. When you think about it, when you're field dressing, you're using the last 3/4 of an inch of the knife. So the other 5 inches might get in the way. It typically does. Everything we make has a purpose, has a use, and is built specifically for we have a reason for it. We don't just build something because it looks cool.
Yeah.
We build it because it's practical. Yeah.
So what is the best kind of steel to make a knife out of? Because I'm thinking, okay, it's got to be hard enough to hold an edge, but it's got to be soft enough that you can put an edge on it. Is there a sweet spot there, Kris?
Yeah, well, certainly, primarily all D2 tool steel in our fixed blade knives, which is an incredible steel. It's used in the auto industry. They stamp metal, car parts out with it all day long in their dies. So, but it also takes a good edge, and it holds an edge. Our pocket knives, our fillet knives, and our kitchen cutlery, we use something a little different. It's called 154 CM, and that's it's a high carbon stain resistant steel. Fillet knives are going to be wet. Pocket knives are in your pocket. You have moisture in your pocket. Kitchen knives are being washed all the time and being used in the kitchen. So it's there's a little bit less carbon in that, but there's enough to give it really good edge retention. So those are the two primary steels that we use: D2 tool steel and 154 CM.
So is there a perfect angle on an edge on a knife? I hear 30, I hear 40. Is there such a thing, Kris?
Well, really what you're using, or if you're going to be hitting a lot of bone, then you want a heavier edge so that you don't roll your edge the second you hit a bone or a rib or some people like to cut around the pelvis of a whitetail. Whatever you're doing, the angle does matter. So that the heavier the edge, if you have a 40 or a 50 degree edge, that's pretty heavy, but it's gonna last you a lot longer than a really thin edges tend to roll over. So we really stick with a between a 30 and a 40 degree edge on almost everything we make, except for our fillet knives and our kitchen cutlery. Those are thinner.
And when you put this angle on, are you putting them in a jig so they're consistent, or is this all done by hand?
It's all done by hand, years and years of practice. Yeah. We don't use jigs for anything. Sharpening a knife is an art, and a lot of people get really frustrated with it, and I completely understand it. You have to keep the angle of the knife the same on both sides when you're grinding it, and that just takes years of practice. And typically, the only people that I ever meet that are able to use a whetstone per se are butchers. That have to be. They're sharpening their knives all day long.
Yeah.
so they can use a whetstone, but most people can't. It's very difficult.
Yes, and I've told you this before. My dad had that ability. He could do it. I don't have it. And because I didn't listen to you, Kris Duerson of Rapid River, like I should have, and I didn't strop my knife like I should have on an old belt, and I have been using it hard, so my edge on it right now is not as good as it should be. Short of coming back to Rapid River and having you guys regrind it, which you will for me and everybody, I know, what's the best way to get a good edge back on that blade?
Sharpener system that has a fixed angle cutter. We sell a sharpener called a Ready Edge. So it's simple. You pull the knife through it. It's the same angle on both sides of the blade. You can't mess it up. It's fast, efficient, and it doesn't remove a lot of steel. And the best thing to do is to find something like that has fixed angles on it, and then pull the knife through it 3 or 4 times, and then start stropping it on the leather. If you keep grinding and grinding and grinding, you're just gonna your edge is gonna go away. Your steel's going away. You're losing part of your knife that's never coming back. So I don't recommend getting too aggressive with it when you want to regrind it.
Yeah.
Pull it through something 3 or 4 times, or use your whetstone 2 or 3 times on each side, and then start stropping it on that belt and see if the edge comes back.
And again, we come back to that. Again, we come back to the stropping. Oh,
it's so important. It's so important. It's every time you put your knife on a whetstone or a grinder, you're losing part of that steel. It's going away. But if you just strop it every once in a while and you don't let that edge round off to where it needs to be reground, your knife's going to last longer as well. Yeah.
And we lost you there just for a second too. And I talked over you. You said, "Look, if you don't want to drive to the shop and get it tweaked, you can actually drop it in the mail and send it off to you guys."
Oh, every day we get knives all over the world that people have bought from us that they can't get an edge back on it. So we sharpen the knives the day we get them and drop them back in the mail. Yes, absolutely.
Well, Kris, it's
and while they're there, we polish them, we recondition them, and fix the handles, and make you get the knife back, it's going to look brand new like the day you bought it.
Well, I enjoy working with you. I enjoy carrying this Rapid River knife every day. I think you guys are a great company. I love your products, and I've turned a lot of people on to you, and everyone has come back and said, "Avery, it was a good suggestion. These are good products," and that makes me feel good, and hopefully it makes you feel good as well, Kris.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. It's always good. I hear it every day. I get somebody in my store every day, or over the internet that tells me that Mike sent them.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
So,
all right, Kris, I'm out of time.
Yeah.
I'll let you go, and you and I will talk again soon. And next time, maybe we'll talk a little hunting.
Sounds good. Take care, Mike.
All right. Kris Duerson of Rapid River Knifeworks, the website rapidriverknifeworks.us. Although I have typed in rapidriverknifeworks.com, and that worked as well, but I think officially it's rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us. Check them out. Check out the showroom there just outside of Rapid River on US 2. You will not be disappointed. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, a few more things I want to talk about as we get close to wrapping up this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Escanaba, the Riviera of the North, on WCHT 600 AM 95.3 FM. You can hear us over in Manistee on WTIQ 1490 AM 95.3 FM, and you can hear us downstate in Saginaw on WSGW AM and FM 790 AM 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. This small corner of the studio. It's called the Outdoor Magazine Studio, at least for the 3 hours while I am here. I'm here this week with Charlie Root. You know Charlie. If you live in the central part of the state, you know his name and voice from WSGW. He's a broadcast veteran, great guy, an expert, very well known in his field. And you might also have heard the stories about the crowd that gathers here just off Tittabawassee in the parking lot to cheer him on as he leaves the building. I had a guy email me the other day, and he said, Mike, tell Charlie I said hello and tell him one of these days I'm going to join you guys there in the parking lot with a sign yelling, Charlie, Charlie. And it's a nice day today. It's a little bit cooler, so we've got maybe 30 or 40 out here today. So it's a good day. Charlie is very well known and very well loved. And he says I'm very well full of something, too. Anyway, where was I? This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping, another group of people very well known and very well loved. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard as they have for me. It's your nature and their nurture. Really experts in the field, hardworking crews. I made a call to Reader just the other day. I said, look, I've got 3 trees at the corner of the house, and every year I have the guys from Reader come over and trim them because I want to keep them nice and tight and looking good and not rubbing up against the house. They said, Mr. Avery, and actually they said, Mike, we will have somebody over there to give you an estimate and get that job done as quickly as possible, as they always do. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. A couple of things I want to follow up on before we bring in Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dave Minar and actually wrap up this week's show. I told you I've been doing some fishing, had a chance to get out with my grandson Trent. That was really, really nice. I did certainly enjoy that. Fishing is holding up pretty well. I plan to be out there tomorrow and the next day if possible, if Mother Nature allows. It's been kind of an interesting summer so far as wind for sure. By the way, welcome to the month of July. It is officially summertime now. 4th of July weekend. Can you believe it? Where does time go? Time does indeed fly. We will find out about our Michigan bear and elk tags on the 5th. I am eagerly awaiting that. I do not expect I will get my elk tag. I do expect I will get my bear tag. Since we've last talked, I did have a birthday, and I got thinking about some things. What have I learned over the years? Well, I tell you what, the older I get, the more I know that I really don't know anything. I feel like there are far more things about this world and the earth that I have no clue about than things that I actually have some degree of insight into. But here's some things that I've learned. Don't ever cancel a fishing trip or a hunting trip based on a weather forecast. Wait until the morning of, wait until the night before, whatever. But listen, weather forecasts are more accurate than ever, but still, I have been hosed many times by saying, well, let's not go because the forecast says, and then wake up that morning and go, oh man, we should be fishing. Here's a good one. Don't leave fish to find fish. Everybody is guilty of this. I have been guilty of this. If you're on fish, don't leave them because your buddy's getting fish 3 miles over to the east, or you hear about reports of them getting big fish out deep. Don't leave fish to find fish. You don't have to harvest something to have fun, meaning you don't have to kill something or catch something to have a great day in the outdoors. That's just a bonus. I have had some of my best days in the field and the best days on the water, and really the action was just kind of blah, or maybe nothing at all. Something else I've learned, and this is I feel this more and more every day. The world is crazy, and people are dumb. Not you, but some people are dumb. And when I look at what's going on in the world, and when I look at the way people think, and I look at the attack and the assault on gun owners and on hunting and even fishing, it makes me sick. It makes me sad. And we can't affect We can't change the world. I don't care what the song says. We can't change the world. But we can have an impact on the world around us. So that's my goal these days. I can't change everything, but the things that I can change and the things I can affect and the things that I can impact, I will. Meaning, if I can take somebody fishing who hasn't been fishing before, if I can take somebody to the range who hasn't been to the range before and show them how much fun this outdoor lifestyle is and how safe hunting and shooting is and how fishing is a great way to put protein cheaply on the table. Cheaply, I don't know, on the table. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to continue to talk about that here on the Outdoor Magazine radio show and all my social media outlets. And again, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, the venue, and the forum to do that. Thank you for your support. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to the Outdoor Magazine radio show, heard on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan, and glad to have you along with us. Also glad to have wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar be a big part of the Outdoor Magazine radio show, as he was during the old Outdoor Magazine television show. If you saw that show, you would see Dave wrap up each week's show, and you get a chance to witness his cooking via video. Now, I can't do that now, but what I can do is provide Dave the opportunity to come on and talk about how to do such things, and you'll have to follow along with the theater of your mind via radio. David, welcome back. How are you, buddy?
Really good. Thank you for those kind words.
Well, it's I always say it's easy to talk in positive terms about good people. And Dave, listen, I've probably watched you cook hundreds of different dishes and dinners and recipes. I've never seen a bad one. I've never tasted a bad one. I don't know how you continue to do it, but man, you've done it for so many years, so good for you.
Well, thank you. You know, I was getting gas in Standish the other day, and I heard a familiar voice on the gas pump.
Is that running again?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just like Mike Avery.
Yeah, my friends at the Forward Corporation. Yeah, they're great people to work with.
Yeah, they are.
Hey, I might be throwing you a curveball here, and if so, I apologize. But I got thinking about this. You know, remember, I don't know if it was last year or a couple of years ago, when you brought Asian carp here into the studio?
Yeah. We were doing it was still when we had the TV show.
Oh, was it that long ago?
Invasive species.
Well, see, that's just it. I was going to tell you, it's not Asian carp anymore. It's invasive carp, and now they've actually changed it to COPI, COPI. They want to start marketing Asian carp / invasive carp / COPI. They want to start marketing it as a source of protein and a fish that people might even serve in restaurants.
It was good.
It was, but it was good because you cooked it, and you can make anything taste good.
Yeah, you know, it had some like extra bones, but they were easily filleted out. I bought a whole fish box full. I think there was 40 or 50 pounds. I had it air freighted up from Indiana, I believe, because one of the rivers down there was a person commercial fishing it, and they were selling it, I think, to the Asian market more than the U.S. And it was dang good fish.
Did you actually end up selling it in the restaurant?
I did.
Now, what are the laws on that? Like, I couldn't bring you, like I could, or could I? Could I bring you my Saginaw Bay walleye and have you cook it up there at the restaurant?
Yeah, just for yourself. And if there was any leftovers, you would have to take it home because I wouldn't be able to have it in the restaurant. But we've done that years and years for some guys that used to go to Georgia and go on a quail hunt and duck and all kinds of stuff. And they would bring me back all kind of great stuff to cook. And then they would take what was left. I would charge them a fee, you know, X amount of money depending on if they were having adult beverages or whatever the side dishes were. And it worked out great. They did it year after year.
So where do you get, say, your walleye or your perch? Because that's a big one. Everybody says, "Oh, we got Michigan perch." Well, where do you get it from?
Okay, it comes through the Ottawa in Canada distribution. Everything has to go there. What they do is they manage their lakes. They only allow so much poundage from each lake, and then when that's achieved, then they stop and then they fish another lake and so on like that for the commercial fishing. And the walleye and the perch come in every, it says product of Canada on the cases, but it's all fresh water.
So where do you get your venison from?
Oh, boy, that comes from farm-raised deer that has to be federally or state inspected to Michigan regulations. And usually we get a lot of elk from Ted's Meat Market up in Saginaw there on Bay Road. They have great, I buy top rounds of elk, and it's just all pure meat, no fat on it, no silver. And then there's a couple of places in Detroit. Northern Lakes and Seafood is one. Ernst Hotel Supply is another. And then the wilder, crazier stuff, African stuff comes out of Chicago. It's called Unique Foods. And they have the taxidermy stamps in order to be able to butcher stuff and sell it commercially like that. Lion and kudu and antelopes and stuff like that. Kangaroo, we get through them too.
All right, one last quick question. Obviously, we're not doing a recipe. All the years you've had a restaurant, what has been the most popular type of fish or wild game? What do people want most?
Well, walleye would be number one. Perch is right there with it, as far as fish goes. Salmon would be third, and whitefish is down a little bit lower on that. And elk is very, very popular. Kangaroo, and we haven't sold lion in probably since we changed the name of the restaurant since back in '09. And people still talk to me about it when I go in the dining room. Hey, when are you going to get lion again? When are you going to get rattlesnake? Stuff like that.
Well, David, listen, let's save that recipe for next week. Always a pleasure talking with you. You're a wealth of knowledge and a great guy. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. If you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do this, and then everything would go south. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Do not hesitate to reach out, and I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.